Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for being here with us today. A lot of my statement is going to mirror a lot of what the chairman has said in his statement, because I think and most Americans who are listening to this are going to have the same kind of echoing, what are we going to do here? Because we all have that issue. We're talking about end-of-life management of electronic waste in the United States. Too often we just pay too little mind. We put it in the basement or in the attic to the mounting volume of electronic waste generated in our lives. Whether it's dusty boxes of old phones, laptops, and cords sitting in our closet, or improperly throwing electronic waste in our curbside trash bins. It's an issue we quickly dismiss for being out of sight, out of mind. There are two misconceptions that I'd like to highlight. The first is that managing our electronic waste is an issue for a later date. This is an outgrowth of the poorly developed collection infrastructure that we have in place. This often limits electronic waste disposal to only the most engaged people willing to visit a dump or a drop-off facility. The second misconception is that our electronic waste is somebody else's problem once we throw it away. This stems from the dismal state of consumer awareness and education. For example, it's far too difficult for the average person to understand when a product is or is not considered electronic waste. I've actually run into this issue myself. Further, many people are unaware that electronic waste should not be commingled with our usual household trash. This is an issue that has become too large to ignore. The EPA determined that electronic waste is the fastest growing segment of the waste stream, both in the United States and around the world. Last year, some of the statistics that the chairman stated, I'll restate: an estimated 5.3 billion mobile phones were discarded worldwide, either thrown away or taken out of service or shoveled into a drawer or a box. That tally helped contribute to the more than 50 million tons of electronic waste generated around the world last year. That number is expected to rise to 75 million tons by 2030. Unsurprisingly, the end-of-life cycle management has failed to keep pace. Even the most optimistic estimates assume that less than 20% of electronic waste is properly collected and recycled. The harmful consequences if we continue on this current path will have a resounding impact on the future of this country. For example, improperly managing electronic waste exports contribute to intellectual property theft through microchip counterfeiting. Further, China's recently threatened to curb exports of critical minerals abroad, and that makes the dim reality of China's dominance in rare earth mineral extraction perfectly clear. Taken together, these developments threaten our nation's military readiness and economic competitiveness. Electronic waste also poses a challenge to public safety and the environment. Improperly disposed lithium-ion batteries are an increasing source of fires in landfills and garbage trucks. The landfill industry reports at least one fire per week in a vehicle caused by a lithium-ion battery, including one just a few weeks ago here in Washington, D.C. Electronic waste often contains toxic materials such as PCBs, lead, and mercury that we export to developing countries with lax environmental standards. Despite the many challenges I've highlighted, there's plenty of reasons to be optimistic, and I see 4 of them right here. By reducing our reliance on overseas mineral production and enhancing our domestic recycling efforts, we can bolster our national security and reduce potential vulnerabilities. Our capacity to refurbish and recover valuable materials from discarded electronic waste has greatly improved in the last few decades. Previously, electronic waste was just piled into a shredder to be sold as scrap. Now the industry is incorporating advanced technologies like robotics, optic scanning, and machine learning. These techniques allow discarded devices, like a mobile phone, to be surgically disassembled, maintaining the purity of high-grade materials for reuse. To illustrate just how far we've come, in 2020, institutional investors, such as Morgan Stanley, predicted that no lithium would be recycled commercially in the next decade. That was in 2020. To the contrary, this committee will hear testimony from the CEO of a publicly traded company whose business is directly involved in recycling lithium. This is a testament to our ability to solve environmental issues with American innovation. It's time for us to realize we are throwing valuable economic assets in the trash under our current system. Our witness panel today represents the full spectrum of interests within the electronic waste recycling industry. I look forward to hearing your valuable insights on the state of the innovation, best practices, and recommendations to help us realize the full potential of recycling electronic waste. With that, I yield back